product provided by Nintendo for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. No, I do not think this by itself means we're getting Xenosaga. However, it's another brick in the wall. Nintendo basically just picked up a Bandai Namco studio, the one from Singapore. And as a Xeno fan, we're on the lookout for anything involving Nintendo and Bandai Namco. So what does this mean for the future of not only Xenoblade, but also Xenosaga? Well, strap yourselves in, people, because we're going on a bumpy ride. Hello, everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and give me a pain as pleasing as your sigh. Earlier, Nintendo of Japan put out a statement talking about the acquisition of shares of Bandai Namco Studios Singapore. Not only are they essentially acquiring the studio, but they're renaming them to Nintendo Studios Singapore. The reason they're doing this is because they have worked with this studio extensively in the past on titles such as Splatoon. So Nintendo made the decision just to say, screw it, let's just bring them into the fold. Specifically, in their own words, to strengthen the development structure of the Nintendo Group. And the way that this acquisition is going to work, Nintendo plans to acquire 80% of BNSS shares on April 1st, 2026, and the remaining shares will be acquired after a certain period once the subsidiaries' operations have stabilized. It is a rather brief statement, and you may be going, well, Jmulls, what does this have to do with Xenoblade and Xenosaga? Well, the reason is very simple. One of the games that I talk about the most in this channel is Xenoblade, developed by Monolith Studios. One of the games I talk about the most in this channel is called Xenoblade Chronicles. They are developed by Monolith Soft. However, Xenoblade weren't the first games they ever made. They were actually a series of games that were put out while Monolith Soft were under Bandai Namco. They were called Xenosaga. And while at first glance this may not seem all that significant, the stories of the Xenosaga games are intertwined with that of Xenoblade. They aren't two separate stories. Recent revelations in Xenoblade Chronicles have revealed that these stories are actually one and the same. This is also abundantly true, by the way, if you have played Xenosaga, which we have spent the better part of the year actually doing on this channel on stream, and they've been an absolute joy to play. And a lot of us have been thinking, well, why not bring Xenosaga back? I mean, these are absolutely phenomenal games. I think Xenosaga Episode 3 is one of the best games ever made, but they're stuck on the PlayStation 2. Why not do something with them? Especially if they're going to make the stories of Xenosaga so important to the lore of Xenoblade. Well, there's been a hitch in that. An issue that we've never been able to get around. Nintendo and Monolith Soft, they don't own Xenosaga. Bandai Namco does. And while Nintendo and Bandai Namco definitely aren't strangers by any stretch of the imagination, despite a working relationship in the past, that doesn't mean Nintendo and therefore Monolith just have free reign with the IP. That's like saying as if you went to someone's Thanksgiving dinner that doesn't just give you free reign to take their toilet home with you for whatever reason. Ordinarily, I don't judge, but I'm gonna judge that one. At the end of the day, it just isn't yours. And for those of us who have what I like to call the Xeno brain rot, we have been waiting with bated breath at the edge of our seats, waiting for any news concerning some kind of collaboration event between Nintendo and Bandai Namco, hoping that it turns out to be Xenosaga related, because we want to see these games come back. If you grew up with Xenosaga, or you got into them only relatively recently, or you've just ever played these games, you know they have a lot of legs to stand on, and I do believe they deserve their own spotlight in the modern day to shine, because I think they can succeed. These games are excellent, and they're gonna be a hell of a lot better with just a little bit of polish here and there. So when you hear about news like this, that Nintendo's just buying up one of the studios of Bandai Namco and just rebranding the thing, yeah, to my knowledge, this isn't the one that has Xenosaga, but I understand why a lot of people get hyped and start to hope for more in the future. Look, I get it. It absolutely sounds conspiratorial. No, guys, you don't get it. If you just look at all the pieces and you connect all the dots, obviously Nintendo will actually buy out Bandai Namco to resurrect an old PS2 series. Right? Like, it sounds like lunacy. But then you look at the things that Monolith do, and you just go scratching your head going, but if there wasn't a plan for something Xenosaga related, why would you do any of this? So let's take a trip back down memory lane and just look at how increasingly apparent the influence of Xenosaga has been, even on a rudimentary level. I'm only going to show off a few examples here today of how influential Xenosaga has been on Xenoblade. Let's go back to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and we're talking about the World Tree here, the Beanstalk, Elysium, whatever you want to call it. This was one of the big reveals of the game. Now, I want you to just bear in mind how this actually looks. Here's another shot of it from Chapter 10. We can see an actual hologram of the structure. Here's another shot that I found of the same structure. Okay, I mean, like, maybe it's a little bit different, because this is the one from Xenosaga Episode 3, but the similarities are striking. Okay, maybe that wasn't enough to convince you. Maybe the fact that Kos-mos and Telos, two characters from Xenosaga, are actually in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as optional rare blades you can get through the game's in-game gacha system. Kos-mos right here, and then a redesigned Telos. These are characters from Xenosaga. Kos-mos is the character on the cover, and she's right there. But maybe then just not canonical. Maybe it's just a nice little reference. A one-time thing, right? Well, let's jump forward in time all the way to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed, the prequel DLC to Xenoblade 3. In the final chapter of the DLC, there's a simple radio. Many people may not see this as a big deal or anything, right? Because it's just a radio. But look closely. At the center of the radio, you see two symbols, like a yin-yang symbol that's been kind of disconnected from itself. That is actually the logo of Vector Industries, one of the biggest players in Xenosaga. This isn't just a little tongue-in-cheek reference. This is a massive lore moment in the game, and it's supposed to be a big reveal for those in the know of Xenosaga lore, because this isn't the only Xenosaga reference that we have in this same exact scene with this same exact radio. Arguably, even a bigger reveal than the Vector Industries logo on the radio is them name-dropping one of the biggest antagonists in all of Xenosaga. Not an abbreviation, not just a tongue-in-cheek reference, his full name, Dmitry Yuriev. And if you analyze the text even a little bit more with context from Xenosaga, there's another reference with the Saviorite Rebellion, product provided by Nintendo for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. But we jump then forward to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, where we get a whole host of other references to Xenosaga. And there's honestly quite a lot of them here, so I'll only name drop a couple of them. But the big antagonists of the new Chapter 13, the Ghosts, one of the two alien factions responsible for the destruction of Earth in the story of Xenoblade Chronicles X, the way they operate, the way they feel, straight down to the way that the ghosts are able to turn things into actual salt. Right here, like, look at this. This is straight Xenosaga stuff. One of the big antagonistic forces in Xenosaga are the Gnosis. But Jmulls, the Gnosis look like a bunch of fish people and whales out in outer space. There's no way they are the same thing as these ghosts, right? That would be preposterous. Well, funnily enough, Xenoblade X doesn't really explain that difference away. But you want to know what does? The story of Xenosaga, because even back then they mention how the Gnosis can alter forms depending on what dimension they're in. And Xenosaga itself goes way more in depth when it comes to actually expanding on the story of the Gnosis. And when you have that story and you look at it in the context of Xenoblade Chronicles X and the role the ghosts serve there, it kind of fits snug. Heck, even down to the fact they call them the ghosts. Like, I didn't even think about this before I made this video. I just made that connection right here. But like, the fact they're called the ghosts just makes so much sense when you know the story of Xenosaga. And believe me, there's so much more we could get into. So much more. But these are just a few of the examples. A few of the big ones, but just a few of the examples connecting Xenosaga and Xenoblade. This is why so many people online are jumpy at any news concerning Bandai Namco and Nintendo. Because Monolith Soft and Nintendo have been basically beating us over the head with all of these Xenosaga lore bits in Xenoblade, where they didn't have to do it. This is the thing I don't think a lot of people fully get. If they didn't want there to be an actual connection between Xenoblade and Saga, they could have just not done any of this. In fact, it would have probably been easier not to make these connections, because I highly doubt the vast majority of the Xenoblade fanbase have ever even played or have a lot of extensive knowledge for Xenosaga. When I played the Xenoblade games, I didn't have that knowledge either. So it would have been a safer bet to keep the stories disconnected. But with each new entry, they tie them ever closer to the point now I think you would have a harder time actually trying to show that they're different rather than the same freaking story. So while I don't believe for a nanosecond that this actually means we're getting Xenosaga in the near future, and I think this is just unrelated, when we do get news like this of Nintendo buying up and acquiring a studio from Bandai Namco, I can understand why a lot of people immediately go, hey, whoa, what does this mean for Xenosaga though? Because at this point, it doesn't feel like the question is, will Bandai Namco and or Nintendo do something with Xenosaga? It really does kind of feel like it's a matter of when. But here's my thing. Xenosaga is an excellent video game series. In my opinion, one of the best series of video games that I've ever played. They are phenomenal turn-based RPGs with interesting and fun character progression, party-based, turn-based gameplay. Absolutely phenomenal, without peer, video game stories, amazing characters, incredible music. These are games that can stand up by themselves because of their own virtue. And if they are to be brought back, yeah, you could just port them one for one if you really want to. I think a few changes here and there could go a very long way to rounding out the few issues these games do have, particularly for Xenosaga Episode 2, where a lot of people consider that to be a bad video game. I would disagree, and I think a few changes here and there, namely to enemy HP values or your own damage values, could go a massive way to making that game just far more enjoyable. If they redid the art across the board to be more in line with what they have for Xenosaga Episode 3 for uniformity, and also just because this game is one of the best looking games I've ever played, by the way, that could also go a long way. I don't really think any of these games need massive overhauls on anything foundational, really. Like, you could change the combat systems in 1 and 2 to be more like Xenosaga Episode 3. Like, you could do that, sure. But I think the systems in 1 and 2 are fun. It's just 2 need some balance adjustments, that's it. Maybe you can touch up on the voice acting here and there, sure. Particular for Xenosaga Episode 2. But it's not like you need to take these games and turn them into something that they're just simply not. These games foundationally are amazing, and I think they do hold up in the modern day. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. I think the odds of seeing Xenosaga and also Xenogears, again, go up and up the more popular Xenoblade becomes and the more successful Xenoblade becomes. But even without the influence of Xenoblade, Xenosaga by itself can stand on its own 2 feet. It has some of the most emotional, some of the most well-written moments and stories I've ever seen in the medium, combined with good bits of comedy, combined with really fun and interesting combat systems, combined with giant freaking robots. I mean, come on. Xenosaga should be an easy sell to any marketing team out there that's even worth their weight in salt. That's a Gnosis/Ghost reference for you all. Yeah, I am a nerd. I understand why people are pessimistic about these games coming back, because they are from the PS2. It's been a long time. I completely understand why people are pessimistic about these games coming back. What I just can't get over is how consistent Monolith are at referencing and basically putting Xenosaga to the forefront of the story, even in the modern day. Going so far as to credit Bandai Namco and Xenosaga in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. So do I hope that we see Xenosaga come back one day? Absolutely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'll take a port, I'll take a remaster, I'll take a remake. Just bring it back. Bring it back. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your own thoughts, your experience with Xenosaga. Have you played them yourself? Have you played them recently? Did you play them when you were a kid? Have you watched someone else play them? Have you watched me play them? Would you like to see Xenosaga return? And if so, what do you think they would need to change to bring them back? Or do you think they shouldn't change a thing? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support your content, and I greatly appreciate it. Speaking of Xenosaga, I've actually beaten Xenosaga Episode 3, also Sprach Zarathustra, recently. My opinion, it's basically a perfect game. It's one of the best games I have ever played, bar none. It's incredible. And if you want to find out why I adore this game so much, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!